This is Covering the Spread, part of the FanDuel Podcast Network.
On yesterday's show, we broke down my thoughts on all three Thanksgiving games, breaking down my favorite bets as far as spread and totals go, and some player props I like at FanDuel Sportsbook. Our job today is to go through the rest of NFL week number 13. We're going to go game by game for the rest of this week 13 slate, breaking down where the market's at right now, what my model is saying about each game, and which bets I want to lock in at FanDuel Sportsbook across the remainder of week 13. Welcome on into Covering the Spread, a FanDuel Research podcast. My name is JimSannes. I am the managing editor at FanDuel Research, here to break down my thoughts on NFL week 13, lay out my favorite bets and predictions at FanDuel Sportsbook across this week's remaining slate of games. We'll dive into all that here in just 1 second, but first, a reminder to make sure you're subscribed to Covering the Spread wherever you get your podcasts. As mentioned, if you want some thoughts on those three Thanksgiving games, check out our show from yesterday, breaking down player props for all three games, some spreads I like, a money line I hate that I like, and much more to get you ready for all three Thanksgiving games. That again is on the Covering the Spread podcast feed right now. Search for Covering the Spread wherever you get your podcasts. Hit subscribe. And if you like what you hear, give us a 5-star rating and review as well. Also, we are recording as always on this brand new YouTube page. DFS show breaking down the Thanksgiving slate is already posted with stuff Brandon Gadula breaking down our thoughts on all three games, position by position picks. So Thanksgiving needs are met here on the YouTube page. NFL Week 13 main slate DFS discussion coming up later today, 2 p.m. Eastern, live on this YouTube page. So subscribe there, enable notifications, and leave us a thumbs up. We appreciate all of you watching on YouTube as always. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets, check out the latest stats, and much more, all on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Never waste a hunch and make every moment worth. FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas, an affiliation with Kansas Star Casino. We're 18 plus and present in DC. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued is now withdrawable bonus bets, which expires 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/Jack Connecticut. Visit MD Gambling Help at Oregon, Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Let's now go game by game here for the remainder of Week 13, breaking down my thoughts on each game at FanDuel Sportsbook and where I'm seeing value in the betting markets right now. That begins on Friday with the Black Friday game. It is the Raiders at the Chiefs right now at FanDuel Sportsbook. Chiefs favored by 12.5. Total in this game is 42.5. And I've got that spread as being relatively accurate. Got the Chiefs a bit more heavily favored at 13.8 points. The bigger thing for me is the total in this game. I really like the over here on Black Friday as the Chiefs take on the Raiders. That is again at 42.5. Over is -110. And I've got this pretty well above this total, in large part because the Chiefs offense has been humming ever since DeAndre Hopkins got there. Now, Hopkins, not an every down player yet, but if you look at Patrick Mahomes' most efficient games in 2024, almost every single one of them has come since Hopkins' arrival. Now he is at home, taking on a Raiders defense that has had some key injuries in the secondary. I know they did just face each other, so some familiarity here for sure. But this Chiefs offense is humming. They're in a good spot. They are at home. I think they themselves are going to put up a lot of points. So I could go with the Chiefs team total over, given that I do show value in their spread as well. But I just like this game total over too, because I don't think Aiden O'Connell's a big downgrade from Gardner Minshew. And the Raiders can put up just a bit and get us to the over on this total. So over 42.5, -110. Do like that number quite a bit. And again, it's not just because of the Chiefs offense, though they are the main catalyst here. It's also because I don't view there as being a big gap between Minshew and Aiden O'Connell. And as a result, I think that this game is a bit lower scoring in the market than what it should be. And based on my model, over 42.5, a really solid bet there for the Black Friday game. Let's transition now to the Sunday games, beginning with the Chargers at the Falcons. Right now, FanDuel Sportsbook, Chargers favored by 1.5, and the total is 48.5. And I'm honestly a bit surprised that the Chargers are favored here because they are in a very difficult spot. Not only did they play on Monday night against the Ravens, but also the Falcons are coming off a bye. So from a rest differential perspective, it literally cannot get any worse than this spot here for the Chargers. They are also on the road. That matters too. So when I look at these two teams in my model, I do have the Chargers as a slightly better team. But when you add in, I've got 1.8 points for home field advantage, and then add in a 0.6 point bump for the Falcons coming off the bye, it winds up where I've got the Falcons favored by 1.9 points in this game. Again, I think the Chargers are the better team, but circumstances, specifically with the Chargers being on short rest and the Falcons coming off a bye and the Chargers being on the road, that all adds up to the Falcons being favored in this game. And right now, FanDuel Sportsbook, you can get the Falcons money line at plus 114. This was plus 110 yesterday. And as you can see, if you're watching YouTube, a lot of the bets coming in at FanDuel Sportsbook have been on the Chargers side of things. I get it. Justin Herbert has been very, very good recently. He's been a lot of fun to watch. That offense has been efficient. Defense has played pretty well too. And the Falcons pre-bye got throttled by the Broncos. So I understand why the market is here, but I think it's pretty far off once you consider all the factors working against the Chargers here. So I'll take the Falcons money line plus 114 at FanDuel Sportsbook. Probably one of my favorite bets of this week, all things considered, despite the fact it does force me to bet against Justin Herbert, which I don't necessarily want to do right now. Next game up is the Colts at the Patriots. Right now, FanDuel Sportsbook. Colts there by 2.5. Total in this game is 42.5. I am pretty close to marking on both those. Have the Colts there by 2.1. Total for me is 41.1. Don't really see a lot of scenarios where I get involved in this game because I think Drake May's played pretty well. Still hard to get a read on Anthony Richardson. He has been more efficient than you'd think based on his completion percentage and stuff like that. So I'm not totally off of him. Not super high in this Colts offense. Honestly, I don't see a lot of paths to me playing this game at all. So probably a stay away. Colts at Patriots for me with where things stand right now. Next game up is another AFC South game. That is the Texans at the Jaguars. Right now, FanDuel Sportsbook. Texans favored by 4.5. Total in this game is 43.5. And I'm spot on with that total. I've got it at 43.6 myself. I am a little bit higher on the Jags in the market if I assume that Trevor Lawrence plays. Now, that's not a given because he's got this left shoulder injury. They said he practiced, I believe, in their first game out of the bye, or practiced out of the bye on Monday. We'll see what the injury report says about him on Wednesday. If I put Lawrence in there, I've got the Texans favored by 3.6. I've kind of I had been upgrading the Texans with Nico Collins being back. I have reduced that upgrade because they still have looked pretty dysfunctional despite the fact that Collins is in there. They had a pick six against the Titans and still lost that game, partly because their defense let up some fluky plays. That game in general is just super chaotic. So I'm probably not going to get involved in this one either because I've already got Lawrence in there. And if he gets ruled in officially, we'll see it move more towards the Jags. So I think if you wanted to buy the Jags, you'd have to do so before we get news on Lawrence. So to me, probably a stay away here as well. Do show some value in the Jags, plus 4.5, but want a better read on Lawrence before I wind up going there. Mentioned before that I've got the Falcons favored despite the fact they are underdogs. Similar setup in New York as the Jets take on the Seahawks. Right now at FanDuel Sportsbook, the Seahawks favored by 1.5. Their money line is minus 130. Total is 41.5. I do have the Jets favored here. Their money line is plus 110. I've got the Jets favored by 2.2. Similar spot here where the Jets are coming off a bye, whereas the Seahawks played last week. It is a cross-country trip for the Seahawks for a 1 p.m. game. A lot of factors, again, working against Seattle here and pushing things toward the Jets. It is a Geno Smith revenge game. We love Geno here, as always. And the Seahawks defense has played very well. Now, I will say, I've given the Seahawks defense an upgrade in my model based on a manual upgrade. I don't like to override the numbers super, super often, but when my eyes tell me, hey, this defense has figured something out with Ernest Jones being there, with Mike McDonald cooking, I'm okay making manual adjustments then, and I did so with the Seahawks. And even with that upward adjustment for their defense, I still cannot make them favored in this game. So Yeah, it's weird to bet on a team with vibes as bad as the Jets, where there are reports about the owner trying to bench the quarterback being what he is and stuff like that. It's not fun to bet on the Jets right now, but the model does show value. And I think that it should here based on everything that I'm seeing right now. So I do like the Jets money line plus 110 as they take on the Seahawks in that game on Sunday. I got the total pretty efficient, 41 for me, 41.5 for the market. So no play for me there, but do like the Jets money line. Fun AFC North matchup between the Pittsburgh Steelers and Cincinnati Bengals. Right now, FanDuel Sportsbook. Bengals here by 2.5 coming out of their bye. Total in this game is 47.5. I'm pretty close to playing an under here. If this game were to get up to 48, I could see myself taking an under there. Have not done so yet because we have seen some upward movement in this total. Wouldn't be shocked if we get a 48.5 before Sunday. And if we do, I'd probably be okay taking an under there. I don't see a lot of scenarios where I play either side in this game. So I got the Bengals here by 2.9. So probably not going to have a lot of interest there as they are pretty much exactly in line with that. Minus 2.5 is minus 120 right now at FanDuel Sportsbook. So effectively 2.9. I'm okay staying away from this one and enjoying it as a person who enjoys football. It'll be a really good game to watch on Sunday. Not going to tarnish it by betting on it. We will let this one ride between the Steelers and the Bengals, unless we can get an under later on this week. Got the Titans go on the road, take on the Commanders. Both these teams drastically either over or underperformed their spread last week. Titans currently at FanDuel Sportsbook, 5.5-point dogs in this one, and the total is 44.5 with this game in Washington. I've got the Commanders favored by 9.1 points. I feel bad about that because I have downgraded them for Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler likely being out. I've downgraded them for Andrew Wiley, the right tackle, likely being out as well. So I've made some pretty big downgrades to the Commanders, but my model hates the Titans because they are very inefficient on offense, specifically through the air, and it cares a lot about that. The Commanders really did not play well this past week, and I think that was the biggest concern we've seen from them thus far, where I was willing to overlook their offensive struggles previously because they played a lot of really tough opponents. The Cowboys are not tough, and they struggled there. So I have a lot of value in the Commanders, but I'm so hesitant to buy in there just because I think that some of what we've seen, the downturn is legit. They've got some injuries at key spots. So I don't really want to buy in the Commanders, despite the fact that my model was valued at 5.5. Total for me, 46.1. So not going to play that one either. It winds up being a stay away. Can't bet the Titans, obviously, because I don't see any value there, but also really having a hard time getting a read on this Commanders team, whether their downturn is legit, whether it's sticky. It seems stickier now than it did entering last week. So probably going to want to stay away from this one, despite the fact I do show value in the Commanders right now. Next game up is the Cardinals at the Vikings. Right now, FanDuel Sportsbook. Vikings favored by 3.5. That is minus 108. And the total in this game is 44.5. Do show value in the over in this one right now. I have this total at 47.4. Now, the reason that I'm not enthusiastic necessarily about betting the total in this game is because it's a 44.5 and it's juiced up to minus 114 there. And means I don't get a win on a key number of 44. Now, again, I'm over another key number at 47. So in theory, I should be more okay with this one, but I'm just a bit more wishy-washy on it. It's the Cardinals offense looking as bad as they did last week. Now going on the road, taking on a Brian Flores defense. That's not super fun. I do have faith the Vikings offense will put up points, so maybe that leads instead to like a Vikings team total over if I do want to play this game. But just kind of wishy-washy about this total. I think that if I were to dive into it, I would go with that Vikings team total as mentioned. Let's check what that is right now at FanDuel Sportsbook. The Vikings team total, 24.5 over is even money. 24 is a key number too. So I think that'd be my favorite preferred way to bet this game. So I don't have to worry about the Cardinals offense dropping a deuce on me. But still just a bit wishy-washy with that one personally and not super inclined to buy in there. But if I were to bet that game, probably the Vikings team total over, but also do not mind the Vikings, the total over as well. Next game up is the Buccaneers at the Panthers. We move to the afternoon games. Right now, FanDuel Sportsbook, Bucs favored by 5.5. Total in this game is 46.5. I kind of think the Bucs are just a really good football team. And as a result, I want to lay the 5.5 here at minus 115. despite the fact the Panthers looked really good last week. I think it was one of Bryce Young's best career games. He's facing Steve Spagnuolo. He had some really impressive throws, but also his underlying efficiency numbers were solid as well. Now facing a Buccaneers defense that has been pretty bad most of this year, outside when they faced Spencer Rattler and Tommy DeVito. So I don't like this Buccaneers defense, but this offense is just so good right now. Got Mike Evans back last week, and they cruised against a Giants defense that really isn't as bad as they looked in that game. The Bucs were efficient even when Evans was out. Now they add him back in the fold, and I think that they could go on a pretty nice run down the stretch here. So I do like laying the 5.5 with the Bucs. I've got the Bucs there by more than a touchdown in this game. And I think that it's just buying into a team that is genuinely good, facing a defense in the Panthers that is still struggling, and that could allow the Bucs to put up a big number on the board. So I just want to buy into a team that I think is very good. That is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. With all the injuries they've had, for them to play as well as they have, I'm buying in and officially a believer in the Bucs. So give me the Bucs minus 5.5 here as they take on the Panthers on Sunday afternoon. As far as the total goes, I do show value in the over a bit. I got a 48.6. This total is a 46.5. So I think that one's pretty okay if you want to go there too. Again, maybe a Bucs team total over, but prefer just lay the 5.5 with the Buccaneers. Don't mind the over again, 46.5 minus 110, but prefer way to bet that game is the Buccaneers at minus 5.5 at minus 115. Also, afternoon game, this one is weirdly fun as well. That is the Rams at the Saints. Right now, FanDuel Sportsbook, the Rams favored by 3. If you want to take the 3 points of the Saints, it's minus 120. So it's effectively a 2.5. And then the total here up to 49.5. And I think that total should be there because I've got this at 49.2. Where I differ from the market, though, is that I think the Saints should be favored. And if you've listened to the show throughout the offseason, earlier on this year, you know my numbers were super high on the Saints earlier this year before all the injuries occurred, and was high on them in the offseason. Now, it's a bummer that all the injuries occurred and led to this downturn for the Saints. Now, I had the Saints favored, but unlike with the Jets and the Falcons, I'm not necessarily clamoring to bet their money line at plus 124. And that's because center Eric McCoy didn't practice with them on Monday. He had a groin injury that held him out earlier on this year and injured his groin before their bye week. And I thought that McCoy would be okay based on what Darren Rizzi said before their bye week. He said he was going to be okay. McCoy not practicing on Monday scared me, or Tuesday, I should say, scared me a bit here. So I'm not as high on the Saints as my model is, because if I were to take McCoy out, I think there's a good chance that, I don't think the Rams be favored in my model, but the value would dry up pretty fast on the Saints side of things. So I want to hold off, see where Eric McCoy is. If McCoy practices Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and stuff like that, then I'll feel good about the Saints to be willing to go there. They're not going to practice Thursday, they said. But hypothetically, if we see McCoy start to trend back up, then I can see myself buying into the Saints at that point, but want to hold off and get a better read on McCoy before I decide to buy in the Saints. Do like them, though, in this game if we get a good read on McCoy in that one. Highlight game of the Week 13 slate is the Eagles at the Ravens. Right now, FanDuel Sportsbook, Ravens favored by 3, and the total in this game is 51.5. Two superstar teams here, absolutely playing on another level as of right now, and you could argue 2 of the 3 or 4 best teams in all of football. I think that the Ravens, despite the fact they are facing a really good opponent this week, are undervalued in the market. And I want to lay the 3 points at minus 108 with this Baltimore Ravens team. And that's all comes down to passing efficiency. The Ravens have been historically efficient this year through the year. And I've been waiting for some regression, interceptions at untimely times to bring that efficiency back down. But it just hasn't happened yet. The defense showed a little bit more against the pass, against Justin Herbert on Monday night too. So maybe they're finally getting cohesion back there. A lot of moving pieces in the secondary. Maybe they're finally starting to gel, get that communication wrapped up. They're facing the Eagles offense that is scary, and they are good, and they are not fun to bet against. But Devontae Smith is banged up. And when there's no Devontae Smith, the raw passing efficiency of the Eagles is not going to stand up to what the Ravens can do, despite the fact it's a good matchup for the Eagles here. So even though the Eagles are a phenomenal team and a team I don't really want to bet against, I do think the Ravens are undervalued here at minus 3. So I'm going to lay the 3 points with the Ravens in this game and bet on what I think is a better quarterback, bet on what I think is a better offense overall in this game. And that to me is the Baltimore Ravens. I think that we can lay the 3 at the Ravens at minus 108 at FanDuel Sportsbook. I am very excited to watch Saquon Barkley make me look very stupid on Sunday, as he has done many, many times before. Hopefully not this time around. Please spare me, Saquon, and let the Ravens play well in this game. Sunday night game is the Niners at the Bills. Right now, FanDuel Sportsbook, Bills favored by 6.5. Total in this game is 44.5. I can't get a read on this game because I don't know what Brock Purdy's status will be. Kyle Shanahan said that he threw on Monday and he felt okay after that. But Kyle Shanahan hasn't had the best track record when it comes to injuries. So I'm not sure how truthful that is. I'm not sure how accurate that is. I have Purdy projected in along with Trent Williams and Nick Bosa. If I project all of them in, I've got the Bills favored by 4.9 with a total here 48.4. Obviously, the market has been skeptical of those things. So this is a stay away from me until we get a better read on Brock Purdy, Trent Williams, Nick Bosa. If we get a read by Friday where those guys are going to play and the market stays where it's at, then I'll probably be taking the Niners money line in this game. That is plus 265. I prefer that over the spread because I think there's a lot of downside in betting the Niners. Like if Purdy comes back and he's not fully healthy, I could see a lot of true downside scenarios where things spiral. So taking a lower unit size, betting the Niners money line instead, that would be the route that I would take. And again, I'd want it to be kind of somewhere near where it is right now. But I need confirmation on Purdy, need confirmation on Trent Williams. Not as much on Bosa. He does matter a lot, but Williams and Purdy are the major catalysts here for me because I put a lot more stock in offense than I do in defense. So want to get read on Purdy and Trent Williams. If we can get a full practice out of Purdy by Friday and Williams good to go, I could see myself buying the Niners then, but I will not touch them until we get the confirmation because I don't want to burn money with Brandon Allen or whoever starting this game for the Niners. So it's a hold off for me until we get a better read on the injuries to Bosa, Williams, and Purdy. Monday night game for this week is the Browns at the Broncos. Weirdly fun game here where the Broncos are favored by 5.5 and the total in this game is at 41.5 as of right now. Got the Broncos favored by 6.8 here. I'm still having a hard time getting a read on this Browns team led by Jameis Winston. If I were to put in like what he's done so far from an efficiency perspective, I'd probably be higher on the Browns, but I'm a bit skeptical of that just because I think we'll see some bad Jameis flare up at times. And it's more likely to happen in games where he's facing really tough defenses. And that's what we get here with this Broncos defense. So if the Broncos favored by 6.8 points, total in this game for me, 42.6. I've not bet the side, I've not bet the total. Most likely to bet the Broncos if this were to come down to 4.5, somewhere in that range. I could see myself buying them. Maybe when we talk on Monday for the Monday Night Football preview, I do wind up betting the Broncos, but as of right now, not quite there. We'd like to see a bit more movement towards the Browns before I decide to buy in with the Broncos here. So bets that I like for this week. I like the Ravens -3 at -108 taking on the Eagles. Want to keep tabs on Eric McCoy for that Saints-Rams game. If we get good news on McCoy, I'd be willing to bet the Saints plus 124 on the money line there. Really do like the Buccaneers, -5.5, -115 as they take on the Panthers. Okay, with the over for Vikings Cardinals. Prefer the Vikings team total there. Just kind of wishy-washy on that one. Like the Jets money line at plus 110, despite the fact it makes me want to vomit. And then we are also on the Falcons money line plus 114. Less vomit with the Falcons than with the Jets, but do like their money line plus 114. And finally, in the Friday game, like in the over, 42.5 for the Raiders at the Chiefs in that one. That's all we have here for today on covering the spread. As mentioned, if you want some thoughts on the Thanksgiving games, check out those in the podcast feed and over on the YouTube page as well. Also on the YouTube page, our NFL DFS preview Thanksgiving is posted right now, and our Week 13 main slate preview coming up later on today, 2 p.m. Eastern. You can stream it live on the YouTube page there. If you got any questions for me, I am on X at JimSannes. I am also on Blue Sky at JimSannes. You can find FanDuel Research on X at FanDuel Research. Big thank you to our YouTube producer, Justin Lane, for his work on the video side of things. Thank you, Justin, as always. And thank you to everyone for tuning in. Good luck to you. If I don't talk to you this afternoon with the DFS show, happy Thanksgiving. Have a happy and safe holiday. We'll talk to you once again next week. This has been Covering the Spread, a FanDuel Research podcast.